What is up, ladies and gentlemen? It is your friendly neighborhood BJJ podcaster, RAF ESPARZA, coming to you with another installment of the Bullpen, a joint venture between Inside BJJ and the Grappling Hour. I hope you're having a great day. I am barely recovered from the PGF draft. It was a lot. A lot of storylines emerged. Teams are now in place, and I think the season is upon us, but there's a lot of news outside of the world of the PGF. We will spend some time talking about that, but we have some matters to get to, including Bad Bunny is going to be headlining the halftime show, which is infinitely more interesting than most things in jiu-jitsu. Speaking of more things that are interesting than jiu-jitsu, I turn to my longtime partner, Tim Freeman. Tim, how are you doing, sir?
I'm doing great, Raf. It is a beautiful day. We got some warm weather out here in sunny Nashville, Tennessee. We're talking 48 degrees. What a beautiful afternoon. Feeling good, man. PGF draft has wrapped up. It's complete. The teams are set. Can't wait to get into that. And like you said, man, lots of stuff coming out in the jiu-jitsu world. Impossible to ignore. Impossible to not acknowledge. And like the consummate professionals that we are, we will have a little time to acknowledge some stuff today.
Well, we'll start with this LL Cool Jitsu 97. What up, Raf? What up, sir? Thank you very much for the kind words and encouragement there. But Tim, we have a little bit to discuss before we get to the board, so we'll give people a preview of what the board looks like. But first, let's talk a few things in terms of what we have been up to since. So you, Tim, have been weathering the storms. Is it still snowing where you're at? Are you okay? Are you safe?
Oh, yeah, we're good. We're chill. All the snow melted in a day. That's Nashville's problem is not that it's cold. It's that they don't know what to do when it snows. Like, we're not getting plows, man. We're just shutting down. It's cheaper.
A second point of consideration here is, Tim, do you watch The Traitors at all?
Oh, yes. I know what you're talking about. On Peacock, I sure do.
Now, there is somebody who I believe used to work for the UFC who said, I would love to see UFC fighters like Daniel Cormier or Dustin Poirier involved in the show. And that got me thinking here, Tim. Who do you think from the jiu-jitsu community would do well on the Peacock smash hit, The Traitors?
Oh, what a great question. We could probably have a spin. We could call it the Creonches, and we could literally have a show with just jiu-jitsu guys on it. And to be real, Rap, if you haven't been accused of being a Creonche, you're not really doing jiu-jitsu. If you've been around for any number of time and you haven't been called a Creonche, then you're not doing jiu-jitsu. I think someone who would be particularly good at it, not because they're cunning, but because they're just so good at doing the thing that you just wouldn't do because it's usually not a good idea. I'd like to see AJ Agazarm on Traitors. I think he would do a nice little job there. Hard to finish.
That's great because I could never see AJ convincingly telling people, guys, I'm a faithful. You know I'm a faithful. I've been a faithful since day one. It's like, nah, that dude's a traitor. And then you'd vote him out and you'd go, we got that one wrong. Yeah. Most of the time when you get somebody wrong in the Traitors as a faithful and you vote out a fellow faithful, people are like, oh, no, we messed that up. And meanwhile, the Traitors are like, I know, right? That's crazy. Who would have ever orchestrated that? I think the obvious answers are people like Craig Jones, obviously would do well. I think a Gordon Ryan would be interesting because we've seen what he looks like when he's up against the wall and can't explain himself. But I have some other people that could be interesting elements here. Like, I would like to make Andrew Tackett a traitor. And I feel walking him through that game would be insane because he would be here being like, I'm just here to make friends, guys. And now I'm a traitor. So I guess I can't make any friends this season. So he has the reality show experience. I think he's definitely up there for consideration. if there's somebody who I'm going to pick from this current season of the PGF, I'm going to pick Brett Moyer. And here's why. Brett, more than anybody, got the note on how to construct a character. And I felt when he showed up in bulletproof garb, that was his shirt, a bulletproof vest. I thought, okay, that's not bad. Then when they said, you want to talk about the outfit? What does this mean? He goes, it's because I'm bulletproof.
Okay.
A couple of the guys were like, that line's hard. And it was like, it's not quite a bar, but it's good. And we had fun about it. But then as he was doing his post-draft interview with me, he really got into what seemed like his PGF persona. So I'd love to put him in there. Obviously, Andy Varela, let's go ahead and talk him into that. But just some last other considerations here. Elijah season of people who might be villains, and you have to figure out who the real villain is. And I feel like that might be the way to go for reality.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a great idea. We could actually probably quit this and just do that full time.
Honestly, it's a better use of our time. And it's a worldwide format. But if we call it the Creonches, that opens up a whole different area where we don't have to buy the IP. It's just the Creonches are just, I accuse you of going to another gym. And it's like, I've never been to another gym. I am loyal to this gym. I have been loyal to this gym. Or you do the invert, which is you want to be the Creonche. It's like, you think I have it in me to be a Creonche? Thank you very much. I accept that honor. And then you really, if you're a faithful, that's when you get voted out. Those are the people who lose out in that game.
It's a great idea. I would like to see people try to. Yes.
You can't add that after. Like, Tim. You can't just be like, what up, Raf, and then Tim. That's two separate things I have to look out for. It says, see you in Vegas next month. Yours truly, I would be a dope faithful. Well, we'll have to see about that. I'm not quite sure.
I'm pretty sure LL Cool Jitsu is Giovanni Ortiz.
It sounds like it is. And he now has a home on a team, which we're very happy about. But Giovanni, I think you need to prove that you'd be a good faithful. So what out there proves that you would be a good faithful? We'll need to know that before we go any further. Nonetheless, Tim, we have some business to get to. So why don't we go ahead and start for the very first topic? And it has been an insane past few weeks in the jiu-jitsu community. A lot of people have shied away about talking about it, but we've seen more and more voices, especially female voices, standing up for the community, saying their thoughts, sharing their thoughts about some really big accusations in the world of jiu-jitsu regarding sexual assault, as well as some very prominent figures that now have essentially created massive headaches for their organizations and for their affiliations. So, Tim, where do we want to start on the multiple amount of allegations that have hit the streets this week?
Well, I mean, let's just start at the beginning here. A couple weeks back, there were some rumblings. I saw a few little, just innuendos about things that could possibly be going on that were alluding to Atos Jiu-Jitsu, and by default, Andre Galval, of course, being the lead of Atos in the States here down in San Diego. And as time went, more and more information came out. Some athletes came out specifically. Athletes started leaving the team. We saw major athletes like Fornerino make statements. We saw Andre came out and rebutted it and issued an official statement. And up until that, it was just kind of like, okay, what's going on? Obviously, nobody supports this type of terrible behavior on the mats in jiu-jitsu or anywhere in life. It doesn't have a place, right? So if that's not bad enough, yesterday and all through today, the news cycle was constantly updating with more and more people. Not just heard that Atos has suspended Andre Galval and his wife Angelica. it turns out that Checkmat has also put on suspension their head coach, Leo Vieira. I'm not sure if that includes his brother, Ricardo, I believe is his name, or not. But there have been allegations that have come out today against both. So I wouldn't be surprised. And at the same time, there were more allegations from Madison Hughes, who opened up and talked about a restraining order that she had filed against a female Kingsway instructor, Jordan Patrick, who was being inappropriate, crossing the line. Behavior was going into stalking. Allegedly, it was enough that she was able to get a restraining order. She posted that. There's lots of calls for change. What I really think is happening right now is that once a couple people put themselves out there and have the courage to do it, you're going to find many, many more follow after. And I don't think it's a bad thing. I think it's a good thing. I also think that us as the community that's hearing this, most of us don't have firsthand knowledge of everything that's going on. So you have to support the people that are making these claims, but at the same time, you have to be very careful about what you spout back is fact versus what your opinion is, because this behavior is abhorrent, and most people, I'd venture to say 99.9% of the people that are alive on the planet want this kind of behavior eradicated. They don't think it has a place and it needs to be punished. And really, jiu-jitsu needs to cleanse itself and it needs to come to Jesus. But at the same time, we do need to give the officials and the folks investigating this the opportunity to investigate it and come out with the findings, and then let's deal with it. Like, let's not sweep it under the rug. Let's deal with it. This is an opportunity to turn the corner for the jiu-jitsu community. The question is will people take this to heart on an individual basis? Because that's the only way it's going to be changed. If instructors themselves in their home gyms, not waiting for some word on high from the parent organization, in your own gym, on your own mats, you got to make a stand and say, we're not going to tolerate this. We're not going to have that kind of culture. And that will truly change it. But that's a tough question to ask, man. I don't know if everyone's going to answer that the right way. So
thank you for that, Tim. It is very difficult to try to formulate how you're going to say things at this time. So I just wanted to try just a few things out. At the end of the broadcast for the PGF, I did make a few notes, one of which was that it is important we continue these conversations, but that they're going to be messy. Like, they're not going to be perfect. There's going to be a lot of discussions that are going to involve a lot of good-natured people trying to come up with solutions that may not hit the mark. So I think it's really important in the comment sections to be encouraging to those who are at least trying or at least coming up with solutions. I have seen some people in the comment section saying things like, well, that doesn't fix this or that doesn't fix that. And I understand there is a sensitivity to wanting to make it better immediately, but if you think about the systematic way this is infiltrated our community, there's going to need to be multiple answers. And one thing that really struck me was somebody talking about the element of affiliations. And what does that mean? In the particular case for the Atos situation, I never envisioned a world where Andre Galvao wouldn't be associated with it. You thought he was probably top of the food chain. And then when they said they would be taking out the Galvao family from the association, in a way, that's a commendable note, but now there's so much tainted with that name that even the organization says, well, we're not involved with him. But for years, he was the representation from it. And that's why so many different organizations have said, we're not going to be a part of that anymore. We don't belong to that. Or they've gone out on their own. I do wonder, the IBJJF put out a statement that essentially went over their safety practices. And in there were some people who weren't happy with how that was. It seemed to be like a checks and balances system that you have to go through almost like HR training and that you have to get that upheld every few years just so that they have some sort of standard. The real key, though, is what do they do as a organization that is for competition? Not everybody competes there. So it's not a end all, but it was an attempt, and I do applaud them for recognizing there was a problem to speak. Fully what that solves yet. I do appreciate people having that conversation. I want to touch on this because this did seem to bring up a concept to me that I think is what separates us from other sports. So there were some people who kept saying, why don't we see this in the media? Why isn't the media covering this? And the real answer, I think, is that it's a difficult thing to report on. There is no beat reporter that does this work. There was for sure one, but y'all chased her out of this sport. And it is not her burden to do this for every single person. I think Avery did a very strong job of covering it when it happened a couple years ago. But complaining about the media needing to verify every one of these claims and it not being fast enough is not a true way to vet this process. There are a lot of people who are doing their best to try and look into this. And more importantly, it's going to come from officials that will tell you the statements, that will make claims, that will verify those claims. That's a very different conversation. So what I would encourage you to think about is this. If you're going to blame the media for not acting fast enough in a situation where you're supposed to take your time and verify each of these claims in a very important and efficient way, ask yourself what you actually watch and what you ingest and what media you support. Because if you aren't supporting the media or you say that you don't like traditional forms of it, well, guess what? When stuff like this happens, there is no source of who does the work and who figures it out. Because with Flow Grappling, you have a broadcaster. It's not necessarily news. They report some news, but they are a machine, a mechanism that airs broadcasts. We don't necessarily have a newspaper. You guys don't read enough of them. You don't like it. So really what you get are statements from people. And when that happens, you have to read the statement and you say, do I believe this? Do I not believe this? And that's really what it comes down to our community. So there is no better place than in this community seeing how important true media and independent media is than when we get situations like this. But by God, if you're ever going to blame the media, first and foremost, look and see the many, many people who have attempted to do stuff like that and then say, maybe we could do more to support those people so that maybe when stuff like this happens, because in other sports, at least you know it'll make major press and people will give that due diligence that it deserves. But it is entirely disappointing that when this comes out, that is why I think everybody is so suspicious. And I think that is why so many people have raised eyebrows and they don't know what to make of it. And that uncertainty definitely plays into the advantage of people who do create assaults. So we're very, very nervous here, but I continue these conversations. I hope that they'll continue to happen in your gyms and beyond, because the old solutions, like saying just having women in power, well, very important. We've seen that sometimes it's not even the perfect safeguard, and that sometimes they might work as an accomplice if you believe the testimony of what people are saying here. So it's going to be a lot more difficult to come up with solutions, but I would encourage you to really not let that make you think that having women in prominent roles at a gym doesn't have an effectiveness. So I just want to let you know that even the solutions we thought we had 2 to 3 years ago, they're going to change as the culture changes. So I hope we can continue to talk about it in a structural way. So that's what I have to say.
Yeah, good stuff, Raf. It's a tricky thing, and that is a great point that you made up. Is like, not that you made up, but you brought up having a female lead or somebody in a position in a gym of power doesn't necessarily really guarantee anything, right? This is not necessarily an issue between men versus women. This is a human issue right now that we got to resolve.
Yeah, and I think the difficulty is you don't want to let it become this exception that influences the rule. It's more the exception that you need to be aware of as you create new policies, or you look very deeply at your gym's culture and know that that doesn't protect everything. And that, you know, it was very heartbreaking to read Alyssa's account there, because for her, obviously being 12 years old, it is incredibly terrible. But you, from our standpoint, people who observe this culture, people who report on it, people who go to events, I saw her this incredibly talented young performer. And when she doesn't make an appearance at other places, you're just curious. You're like, man, she was so good. I wonder what happened. And then you read a case like that, and then you think, well, I could see how they would want to step away from this. And especially if they were made out to be a pariah or somebody who was doing something for nefarious reasons and sharing their story. Why would you want to be a part of this community? And you know, your heart breaks. So I think the best that we can do is try to look into these claims. But I really think when people talk about a reckoning or what we need to do as a sport, I really do feel like the solutions aren't going to come from us just yelling at each other in the comment section. I think they have to come from very, very open-minded people listening and try to absorb the best things that they need to do for their gyms.
Yeah. Agreed, Raf. Well said.
All right. Well, we're going to move on to our next topic. I understand we'll likely be talking a lot more about this as this goes. But for right now, I thank you guys for allowing us to spend a few minutes and discuss that. We will now move on over to PGF Season 9 news. The draft happened on Wednesday evening, and I was there live. Tim, you were watching it. And I have to ask, what did it play like at home, and what stuck out to you there?
I mean, I thought it looked good. The production value was good. It was fun to watch. What really jumped out to me is and we saw this last year, not so much season 7, season 6, not too much at all. The teams that went into the draft seemed like they had a much more coherent plan on what they were going to do. It was a lot less of like, who can do math? You know, like, is there anyone that can count? Like, there was a lot less of that. It seemed like the teams had a plan. So I really did like that part of it, because that's telling you that this draft function, this idea, this auction format, it's working, and people are buying into it, and they're coming with strategy, and they're coming with tactics. So I really did like that part of it. I thought that was a great kickoff for the franchise era. Overall, man, I think the Las Vegas Kings and the Alabama Twisters, to me, look like the strongest two teams. Having said that, the Phenoms don't look bad either. They have a pretty well-balanced team. They got Rayfield, who is a terror. Andrew's doing great. I think Melanson is going to be a star. I think he's going to do fantastic in the PGF. And we know Chambers is a proven commodity. Noah McCauley is also, I mean, I think that's a real solid team there, Raf. The Wolverines, I need to see these guys play out. Like, I'm a little unsure of how the team is going to gel together, but you never know, man. Like, Egg, he's always going to be Egg to me, damn it. He's not a dumb dude. He's got a strong, organized background. And so I think that if they don't come together, it's not going to be for lack of organization and planning and trying. It could just be a mix of personalities. But I think that's probably the question mark on the season. Overall, though, I think the Kings are the team to beat, man. What a team. They went hard after Austin Ornday and got him. Similarly, we saw that with Travis Haven in the Twisters. Both those teams went in looking to get their two guys, and they got them. So
I want to point this out. You know, for most things with Egg, I think if he does well, it is only by accident. So I think that is going to really be the key for it. I'm not so sure it's the strategy, but we can talk about one strategy he had. Maybe you can tell me differently at home, but did it play like Egg was driving up the value for those other franchises to bet on their players?
yeah, I think so. I think that was kind of, but look, here's my, and I thought about that tactic because we've kind of seen it. It's like wasting your energy focusing on the people that hate you. Like, why are you spending your time and your focus and your energy on trying to thwart somebody else if it's not really going to help you? Like, I don't see how the Wolverines use that tactic to benefit themselves. Like, they didn't go like, aha, now I'm getting the guy I wanted because I drove the price up on a guy and you weren't paying attention. I don't see that. I see like, hey, I'm going to make you pay more.
I think they had a game player with Chris Olivo from the Phenoms who was doing it right back to them. So it became a little bit of gamesmanship between the two of them.
Yeah.
Not phased, the Kings, who were just like, we know who we want and y'all do whatever you want, but like, we'll chime in. And sometimes the Kings wouldn't even chime in until the 4,000 region. So they literally said, go above what should be market value, and then we'll just come in for who we want. And one of the biggest surprises was them taking Chewy, where I wasn't sure what they were going to do with him. But then I thought about it like this. The Kings have a pretty secure team. Cam Hurd, the question mark is going to be, what does he do now as an elder statesman on the team? Before he was a blocker, can he be a point scorer? That's going to be a very pivotal part for his play this season. We've seen what happens with Jet Thompson, a previous champ, has his back against the wall. He can put points on the board. Those are two solid positions with a lot of veteran experience. Austin was very highly scouted, went for the most money, and right out the bat, like, Travis went for a lot of money. You weren't sure what was going to be left in the bank. And yet Austin, with his pedigree, with his experience, came in, got the money that he wanted. And you look at those, Jared, lots of competition, lots of wrestling experience. I think may need to step into the Cam Hurd role of being a stopper this season. And then there's Chewy, where there's a lot of people you have on the playing field. I legitimately believe Chewy had the best speech of the entire program. Did it first in Spanish, then Brandon read his statement in English. And I think if you look at the core values of the Kings and how they conduct themselves both on and off the mats, I think Chewy, even though it seemed like, man, I don't know, it was a steal for $1,000, he really does fit in with the values they sort of espouse. So when he was saying, like, I'm doing this to make a better life for my family and to go back home and to do this, I legitimately thought to myself, that's a dude who does belong on a team. And at $1,000, that's below market value. There's only upside for him. So I feel like that is a very strong team. And so I'm very, very interested to see what's going on there. Now, we have some people in the chat. Now, they're trying to influence the chat, by the way. The Wolverines had the best draft class, in my opinion. Let's talk facts here. I think Jay was a strong buy. I can agree with that. So I can start with doing this. The second claim, however, good-looking GM 2, CJ, I have to be honest with you, sir. You did not rank in the top 20 of best dressed at the draft. And this is speaking as the 5th best dressed at the draft. So I know what I'm speaking of here. And by the way, we actually used to give out best dressed here. They now have given that award away for reals, where we would do it on our show. Now they've added value and they give it out to somebody here. So goes to show you how much we influence this. They went from, I don't know, we don't have to do that. It's like, don't worry, we'll take care of best dressed. And now they're like, well, best dressed is. I go, are we going to have a glam bot in here too?
Soon.
Well, you're welcome once again for doing the hard work. It says, I heartily agree. I don't know to what to, but I assume whatever I say is right. So that is good. And it says he dumped Mellison on Philly. So Wallow, what does that mean? I don't know that Mellison was dumped on anybody. And if anything, Mellison went at market value. And if you saw the footage of him reacting to it, he was like half asleep at his gym watching it. And then when they asked him, like, how do you feel? He goes, I feel like I should have gone for more money. And I wonder if that's going to become a storyline throughout this season.
Yeah, I think Mellison is going to make big waves. I think he's going to be great. I don't view that as him getting dumped. Maybe it appeared like there was a little run up and they didn't really want him, but that's a strong pick, a very good pick. And building on what you said about the Kings, they got Chewy for $1,000. They have Bowers and Murdoch on their bench. They're both veterans, and I think Bowers has a huge upside. I actually think it's better for him this season to start on the bench without the pressure, without the big, you earned a bunch in the auction and now you got to show up and do all this stuff. Take some pressure off the kid, give him a chance to be who he is. We know he's great. We've seen him do great. So I think it's a great pickup. And then the Twisters with Gio Ortiz on the bench is a strong bench, dude. Gio Ortiz is no joke. I've rolled with him a lot. He's super freaking good, man. And this is a guy that's been doing jiu-jitsu since he was a kid, and he's a great dude.
I hope that you're just saying that because you saw him in the comment section a little bit earlier and you're like, he is a great person. I have rolled with him, so he is quite good at jiu-jitsu.
I'm going to have to roll with him. Probably I'll be rolling with him eventually here in the future. So listen, Gio's great by my books, man. No, he's got a great crew, man. They train out at One Nation Jiu-Jitsu, not too far.
So let me say this. It says, this is true. Wallow is right. First of all, mark the date and time because no one has ever said that. Second, what was he right about? This falls in the family. It's context mattering. So whenever you respond to something, just know there's about 40 different topics we go through, even though there's 8 on the board. So it does help if we can narrow that down. I want to point this out. There's some other things I wasn't sure how they played. We'll move on to our next topic in a little bit, but I want to spend time here because we both had different experiences. You're watching at home. I'm there live. I told you who I thought was the best speech. I want to go over this idea of selling yourselves in the future for the drafts. And I will say this again the next time we do season 10, though. I think it's really important that you know your first line and your last line. Everything else should be played in the moment, but it really does upset me as a speech and debate coach who's won a few things, national titles, all big. I just want to make sure that people know if you're up there and you don't have your first and your last line, that's where you get lost. And I think you should rehearse it because the minute B-Mac hands you the microphone or at least holds on to it while you talk into it, it is really important that you make that sell because that can give you a little bit of extra money. And you mentioned something about JJ. I told him he is definitely going to be a name in people's mouths this season because we saw last year he just didn't put the points on the board that his price point needed. And yet he has been putting in the work with some incredible talent, including, but not limited to, Mikey Musumeci, Andrew Tackett. Those are names that could be very significant if when he gets his slot. So I really would highly suggest that because it just, as people were getting in there, they were responding to the moment and just going like, oh man, that's crazy. Well, let me tell you a little bit about me. I do jiu-jitsu. Okay. And I'm going to do real well. Oh, good. I was hoping he would do well in a season where we're paying for somebody. Just legitimately bring it in, make people invested, And if you're playing a character like Brett seemed to be, or at least a heightened version of yourself, that draws us in and that makes us more intrigued. And as the season goes, it's going to be very, very, very important. And to Gio and to Sean, I'm surprised that we didn't have a statement written by them or that we didn't have like a video package. So I'm not used to having people not be there for their draft, except for AJ Agazarm, who magically just showed up afterwards. What I would tell you is, if you can't make a presence there, I really do feel like we need to have some video package or at least a written statement, because we saw that the best speech was a written statement. So now just imagine how that would play and maybe get you a little bit more money. Because, I mean, Sean's sitting there being like, hey, man, I wish I would have gone for more money. And I'm like, I think if you would have written something and said something, we might have gotten a little more money. You got to get the people going.
Who wins the Papadelos Longest Speech Award? Sponsored by NyQuil.
Honestly, nobody remotely came close to that.
Oh, that's awesome. Actually, that's a good thing, to be honest.
That was progress. Really, you actually bring up a very solid point here, Tim. Because, again, last year when Christos was making his pulpit on the stage, there was a strange moment where he got an applause break and then said, wait, I'm not done. And I go, no.
I remember. It was like, bro, you got to go out on the bang, dog. You might not get this round of applause again.
But the thing is, it's like, they'll know that they get a short term, like, I got money, so I got what I wanted. And it's just like, dude, you got the money because you're good at jiu-jitsu, not because you spoke and made the people get excited. Like, your accolades are great. If anything, you just made us bet on you and wait to bet on you longer, where the Papadelos Filibuster Award is 100% a very strong candidate for a name, by the way. I'd have to check the official records, but you know, Tim, I want to show you something. Let me step off real quick to get this. So,
all right, ladies and gentlemen, I'm not
sure. I have learned in the past, you can't depend on people like Egg, who, as you'll recall, had to resign disgracefully because he didn't do the stats correctly and ended up, as a punishment, having to buy a team. I legitimately kept records of who bet and in what order. And what you know, that's Travis. But this for Austin was absolute chaos all the way through. So we're getting in a place now where I think people are really paying attention to how they need to do PGF. And listen, even when you get this, for Jaden coming in at 3,000, like, that's a very clear way. Didn't take a lot of bets, but they knew what his market value would be. And they said, we're willing to take a bet on this qualifier winner. So there's a lot of crazy stuff that was happening, but I definitely was playing this very well. And even when we got to Anthony Parker Salisbury, who, by the way, just goes by Anthony now, even though he is listed as Parker on some of his smooth comp things, it's confusing. You could see the line that people were going by an extra 100, 200, and people had price points that were very, very well scouted. What I will say in the future, though, Tim, it does change things when you know they only have $9,000 in the bank. So I'm wondering how long these price points stay.
I mean, I'm assuming the PGF would like nothing more than for these price points to skyrocket, because the higher the money involved, the better caliber and the larger quantity of athletes you're going to have show up to these qualifiers. So, which is great for the athletes too, man. Like, good for them.
Yeah, I just want to point this out. Maybe you missed the part when we were roasting you for the ability of speaking during the actual betting, Egg. I like that you're telling us it's poker. You play against the other poker player. If that shit was telecast at 1:30 a.m. on NBC, like they used to be, that shit would have got canceled very quickly. So, just a little note. We know TV. All right, let's move on. Tim, it is time to go to our next topic. And yes, we will still talk a little bit about the PGF if you guys want to throw some questions in here. But this is exciting news. I didn't even know this until I was prepping the show today. Tim, the return of Submission Underground, does it have anything to do with a certain personality being fired from ESPN? My thoughts and your thoughts incoming now.
Probably. I would think so. Chael Sonnen, Uncle Chael, has gone to social media, and I love what he did because he is one of the best trolls and cuts a great promo, blends the pro wrestling shtick and vibe into his life. I think it's not just into when he's talking, it's into his life. He starts out the conversation with Florianopolis, Brazil. Submission Underground is coming back May 17th. This is going to be a no-gi grappling tournament style. And here's the thing. I don't know if he's actually going to do this in Brazil or if he's just jerking around with the Brazilians. Either way, I really enjoyed Submission Underground. I like the way Chael ran it, and I think it's good to have another promotion in the mix that has a name, that has a platform, that is not trying to just, make a couple bucks on one event, and then that's it. You're never going to see them again. Having said that, SUG, I think, is about 5 years out from the last time they did a show, maybe 4 or 5 years out. So it's been a minute. And I wonder, Raf, if Chael's involvement in Real American Freestyle and him seeing the amount of people that are interested in it, the buzz around it, I wonder if that has motivated him or recharged him in a way where he feels like this is something he wants to do again. And will he change the format? Because, for a while there, it was like, I felt like Chael was doing everything at Submission Underground. He was doing the commenting. He was running into the cage. He was grappling half the matches. Will we see that format, or will we see an actual arena-style show or a bigger, larger venue on a bigger platform? Who knows? Either way, I can't wait to see it. I'm stoked for the return of Submission Underground.
I was really disappointed when we didn't see Submission Underground events. It was one of the things that got us through the pandemic era. Yeah. It was consistently broadcast that you could count on. I want to say it was right neck and neck, or even before the UFC started putting back on events. So definitely appointment television when we were all at home for a while. But a few things have changed, Chael. So first and foremost, Chael Sonnen now, as Tim mentioned, is a part of the Real American Freestyle Wrestling, which, by the way, shares a name with me, so you're welcome for the SEO. But with Chael, it is interesting because he did take a match in the interim against Craig Jones. That's about as big of a match as you can pull. I wonder who we would have for him to take on, because I feel he's part of the attraction. And he was doing the commentary from his own chair. When the pandemic hit, it was just him. It was just him going, oh man, he's hitting him with a thingamabobber. And oh my goodness, what a great inversion here. And it was interesting to see somebody who is of our world of jiu-jitsu, but also not. Chael can't tell you about an octopus guard right now, even though it's the one person he knows about, which is Craig. And he was early on the love of Mason Fowler. If anything, Mason Fowler made a big name for himself over at Submission Underground, parlayed that on over to UFC BJJ, among other accolades. So there's a lot there, including the fact that Chael also got people like Sean Strickland, John Jones, all of them making their way in there. So I think Real American Freestyle Wrestling owes Chael for probably being a little bit of a founding father for their format and of interest. One thing I think Real American Freestyle Wrestling can do in exchange is give him some of the production. Because toward the end, we were in a barn. Now, granted, we had to do what we had to do. I get it. But look at the production we could have. And I feel like Chael is somebody who speaks that language and might even bring us a wrestler or two that is interested in doing it. I'm sure he'll even change the rules because wrestlers are like, ow, heel hooks, I can't have a career with that. or you could learn how to get out of them. But I digress. That's too much to ask of them to equal out combat sports training, where they would sometimes get punched and kicked. It's too difficult. Heel hooks. That's the breaking point on these negotiations. I guess what I'm saying here is, Chael, real opportunities. I'm ready to be back at work. If you need somebody to help out there, happy to do some interviews, happy to do some commentary, take a little bit of the burden off of you. And if you don't want me, we can just roast you the whole time. I have no problem. If I'm hired, I don't roast as much. So really, ball's in your court. Nonetheless, very happy to see that.
Like
There's a lot of grapplers who are going to benefit from that. I'm sorry, Tim, what were you saying there, sir?
That's like a shakedown. It would be unfortunate if somebody went online and roasted you during your event, wouldn't it, Chael? Or you could give us a job. I love it.
I've watched Chael in politics, so I know this works. I just want to make sure that people understand at this point, we're just going to hijack things and just tell you, if you don't hire us, we're going to roast you. I feel like that's fair. It's very straightforward.
I do too.
All right, let's move on to the next topic, because we lost an egg. The minute the PGF conversation stops, he's out. But he will spend 10 minutes per letter grade on his show a little bit later, which is fascinating television. Godspeed to you, CJ. You got a lot of work to do there, kid. All right, let's talk about this. Tom Hardy got promoted. Look at this. Tom DeBlas took out time from his schedule of not really sure what he does other than Instagram captioning, but there is a very, very busy schedule, and he made his way on over to go see Tom Hardy. Tim, what happened when he made connection with Tom Hardy?
So Tom Hardy, who we know as one of the actual Hollywood famous actors who has a very good reputation in the jiu-jitsu world in terms of getting after it and training, was promoted to his brown belt by his professor, Sonny Weston. And I was curious. I saw the picture and I'm like, okay, his professor's there, but like Tom DeBlas is there. Gi pants and a t-shirt. And I'm like, wait a minute. This looks like Tom DeBlas didn't bring his gi, and dude let him borrow some gi pants. And he just went and did it with his t-shirt on. But Tom apparently was overseas in Europe. I think this was in London, perhaps, or somewhere in the UK, to do a seminar. And he said, you know, man, I had to stop by. I love Tom Hardy. He said, I barely have enough time in the week, let alone to support BS. My reputation is more important. But he said, I traveled to teach and personally witnessed this promotion because it was fully earned. And I think it was fully earned. I just get a special kick out of DeBlas being the busiest man in the world, but still being able to be everywhere all the time and also be online. He's probably firing off a response to this topic as we speak, Raf. But I digress. Great job to Tom Hardy. Congratulations on that well-deserved brown belt.
I want to know how many times Tom has rolled with Tom. Is that a crazy thing to ask? You know, like, this is truly the kissing babies and shaking hands portion of the job. So, like, the fact that this dude found a photo op to go make it into, and granted, Tom Hardy's not going to turn it down. Tom Hardy is a very nice ambassador of the sport. I think he gets, hey, man, it's cool if Tom DeBlas comes here. He's one of the ADCC legends. He's somebody who's fought before, storied credentials, and also a big part of ONE FC. So this man is very well connected. It's just, I guess the question is, when I get my black belt, is Tom DeBlas going to show up out of the woods? And I'm going to be like, Tom, what are you doing
Tim
here?
DeBlas is.
Tim DeBlas better make an appearance there, by the way.
Come as Tom DeBlas, by the way, to your promotion.
I've legitimately thought that my black belt has to be a produced show of This Is Your Life, where like people are playing clips of their voices. And I'm like, is that Tim? Tim, you didn't fly out here for this, did you? Oh my God. Is that my fourth grade teacher? Oh my God. Mrs. Edwards, what are you doing here? So I feel like that'll be some good TV. All right. Let's move on.
Hey, before we jump,
go ahead.
Sorry. Before we jump, what TV show studio is that up in the graphic? Can you tell by looking at it? Because we know Tom's an actor.
Oh, it's Frasier.
And we know the other Tom is an actor.
What are we talking about? Like, bro, don't ever hit me with Frasier trivia ever on this show. Your boy, and I'll find the photo. Literally went to a Frasier taping right after they won an Emmy for Best Comedy. Loved it. Went with my whole family. Got the tickets myself. I am a child at this point, by the way. Barely able to go see it. And your boy has a Frasier t-shirt. So I'm letting you know, Tim, the real here. I worship at the altar of the Cheers writers and the Frasier writers. Best spinoff ever to come from a show. The Emmy history supports that, and with good reason. So, just saying.
Great stuff.
I love that you were just like, do you know what sitcom? Yeah, of course, Tim, I know the sitcom. I just wondered, what are they doing in Seattle?
Well, what they're doing is Tom Hardy's acting, and he's got a gig, and they're doing a remake of Frasier, and Tom Hardy is in it, and Tom DeBlas is Frasier Crane. Hardy's the brother in Sonny Weston's. Can you imagine Frasier Crane? Is Niles.
I can't deal with that.
That's Hardy's Niles.
Because now I'm thinking about Tom DeBlas having Kelsey Grammarisms of like, oh, well, you would never wear that at the Chateau Le Mans, would you, Niles? AKA Tom Hardy. Tom Hardy coming in with one of his little accents that he does in those gangster films, being like, yeah, man, I wouldn't do that stuff. And you know all that. Like, it's melting my brain, Tim.
It would be a hit.
All right. Well, they tried to reboot it once. Maybe they're going to do a hard reboot and just take it somewhere else. Let us move to our next topic, which is ROBO-SNAP. So it appears that Mighty Mouse, aka Demetrius Johnson, has some regrets. This man has been making the rounds, a very prominent podcaster and media figure in his own right. What is the regret that he has currently, Tim?
You know, given the current climate and everything that's going on, I think he's outing himself. He's saying, look, I harmed a robot. So Mighty Mouse was out in Sacramento at the great Uriah Faber's gym, Ultimate Athlete. Nice gym, big spot. And Uriah, I don't know if Uriah's got a stake in the robot company or if he just gets a spiff for selling these things. I think he has some kind of stake in it. And he put Demetrius Johnson on the robot and he's like, hey, give it a whirl, man. Let's see how it feels. And Demetrius is like, you know, trying to ankle lock it and tug on it. And they're like, nah, you got to really get it. You'll get the joint. And he did it and he'll pop. And he popped that joint. And he said he felt bad about it. It's like, man, I fucked that robot up, man. And so I think he's just trying to get out ahead of everything. He doesn't want to be known as a robot abuser. So he's just coming out saying like, yo, man, I jacked a robot up. I did feel bad about it. I am going to go learn and, you know, take this time to reflect about my behavior with robots and try not to break the robot. And then somebody had to tell him like, no, it has articulating joints. It's meant to pop. Like that's the whole point of the robot. $4,800 for one of these. Not a great deal, but I suppose if you can't find a partner and you really need somebody to train with, you can get yourself a robot and try not to abuse it.
I'll say this, Tim. You know, listen, why are we feeling bad? Is it just that we feel the robot uprising is coming and now he's like, I don't know if I've been nice to my AI. So I'm so sorry, man. Didn't mean to pop that. And did you know how much it does cost to replace those things?
I don't know. It's probably a lot.
It's a few hundred, if not 1,000 plus. So to me, when I hear about those parts that need to get replaced, I thought this is a perfect marketing gig. Like, oh no, you broke it. Well, yikes. You gotta take this now. By the way, shout out to Train Angry MMA, who has been doing some of the heavy lifting on a lot of the SA allegations. And, it's kind of an interesting moment here when we're watching things unfold and you'll see the news hit and you think, oh my goodness, there's another accusation that's hit the streets. So thank you, Train, for that. We appreciate you, brother. Hope all is well on your side of the world. But we're going to move on now to our next topic, which is that of comebacks. Well, it looks like this Thursday is going to be the next installment of UFC BJJ. And headlining now is going to be the return of Nicholas Marigali. And Tim, it's a pretty interesting card. So can you tell us some of your thoughts on the upcoming UFC BJJ card, as well as the return of somebody who's been sidelined since ADCC?
Yeah, so like you mentioned, Nicholas Marigali got hurt in 2024 ADCC matchup against Michael Pixley, injured his shoulder, and what first I think he was hoping would be an injury that he can get through relatively quick, something that maybe he could get, one of those massager machines on it and, go on the, a high protein diet for 5 weeks, take some peptides, and then you're all better. Didn't turn out that way. As it did turn out, Marigali ended up having 4 surgeries to correct his shoulder. He sat out for over a year. He's returning back, 31 years old. Now, having said that, if you're going to sit out a year of jiu-jitsu, 2025 was probably the best year to sit out. With all the nonsense and all the crap going on, if you're going to take a break from it, I imagine 2025 was a nice year not to get your name involved in anything and just sit back and ride it out. So UFC BJJ 5 on Thursday night signed Marigali to come back, and he's going up against someone who's not super well known. His last name, and I have a hard time pronouncing the last name. I'm going to take a stab at it. It's Maglicic, I think. Maglicic, I think is how he says his last name. Niko Maglicic. Did great at the ADCC qualifiers. Doesn't have a storied career as much as Marigali has. He's a little newer on the scene, but he is hot, and this is a comeback match for Marigali. When a high-level athlete gets hurt like that, you don't always know how you're going to come back and perform. So this is a big matchup for Marigali. And as you mentioned, other fights on the card. We know Musamichi talked about that a while ago. We also see Ronaldo Jr. is going to be on the card. I believe. Do we have the Battle of the Andes on this? Is this
yes, this is the Andy
Varela
versus Andy.
Yeah, we got the battle for the name Andy, which out of all the names you could battle for, you wouldn't think Andy would be the name that guys would be fighting over, but this is the Andy battle. So I'm looking forward. I'm going to watch UFC BJJ 5 when it comes out. I'm definitely going to watch that.
By the way, when you tell people this has been the match that everybody's wanted to see, Andy versus Andy, it's not because you're both named Andy. Like they wanted to see it because you both have high impact match style. Not necessarily that they're like, well, that's an Andy, they better fight. Because if that's the case, what am I supposed to do? Take on the Royal American Air Force or Real American Freestyle Wrestling? I'll do it. I just don't think I have better lawyers than they do. Otherwise, I would have already done it. But I cannot tell you the amount of people who have messaged me and been like, do you see the name of this thing? I sure did. Sure did. It's unfortunate for your boy here who does not have great Real American Freestyle Wrestling style to him. So kind of annoying.
Yeah. I mean, I would rather watch Andy versus Randy or Raf versus Blath. And you know what I mean? Like, that's compelling to me. That's like, okay, we're going to see some stuff now. Like, let's check this
out. We have to move on. We're going to go now to our low light highlight of the week. What can you tell us about this week's fight of the week?
Oh, wow. This match is in the restaurant fighting genre, and it features what I am coining as a new technique. This is the long-term hair pull. This is the iron claw. George the who was that? Who did the claw?
The Von Erichs.
Who was the OG? The Von Erichs did the claw. There was another dude in the WWF who was a jobber who used to do it. Maybe it was
You're talking about Crush?
Nah, this was like when we were kids, and they had the super jobber matches on Saturday morning. Anyway, doesn't matter. There's a long-term hair pull. It is a classic handicap match, and when I say that, what I mean in wrestling genre, a handicap match, it is not someone in a wheelchair. It's 3 versus 1. But if you pay attention, it's actually 3 versus 2. There is a mystery competitor in this fight who is shielded much of the time, but does make an appearance at the end. There is a little bit of a swerve. And I want you, Raf, to tell me, is this Keith Owens in this fight video, or is this 99-cent store Keith Owens? You
got you. Okay.
Tell me when it's your turn.
Well, you're going to take the first stab at it, Tim. Here it comes.
All right. Okay, so here we go. We got Keith Owens going at, and now Air Jordan is whipping him with that wet floor sign, otherwise known as piso mojado. Do not confuse it with solo basura. So they're getting after it, and then Owens comes in for the standing head and arm choke. And he's doing a good job. Cameraman's doing good right up in the face, and they check their hands. They're like, oh, I got to check my nails. And then just take a quick peek to the left of the camera, and you see the vicious hair pull that had been going on since the fight started. For my money, using the wet floor sign is maybe one of the it literally it reminds me of Mickey Rourke in the Dark Knight movie when he was playing Dr. Octopus, and he was out on the racetrack with those long ass hands and was slamming everything around. And
hold on.
Maybe
Tim,
it wasn't Dr. Octopus.
Tim, the amount
I got my metaphor.
No,
It's,
the amount
Spider-Man.
of nerd references that just got butchered there. Like, this is a trap. And I know it's a trap, but I have to set the record straight. Doc Ock is not in fucking Batman. I'm sorry.
I got it. You're right. I blew my reference, man.
And then it's Whiplash that he's essentially portraying in Iron Man Dose. So then conflating all of those. Now, the pro wrestling side. You said this is Keith Owens?
Isn't that his name? What's his name?
Kevin Owens. Now,
Keith is his brother, dude. Come on, it's
but
Keith
on the circuit. I believe he did have a lot of Owens. Part of the Owen name is due to the fact that he was a huge Owen Hart fan.
Oh, I see.
So, okay.
Yeah.
You know what? Here, I'm going to take a stab at this, but I had to correct those for the public record.
Boy, that's fantastic. This is going to be my 2026 highlight video. One of them when we do our top 10. Mark it down. February 6th. This was my nerd honeypot. I just got you all to expose yourselves for how big of a dork you actually are.
I need you to understand, Tim, the fact that you had one blunder and that I just said, all right, we can let that pass. I'll get that on the second end. And then the second blunder and the third blunder, I have it figured out here. Okay, first of all, starting off with a caution sign, chef's kiss. Because what better way to tell somebody, hey, look out, I'm going to hit you, than literally hitting them over the head with a caution sign. It's genius, but he blocks them very well. Now, there's a lot at play here. First and foremost, while Kevin Owens is blocking things, he's trying to set up a rock bottom. So he's very much in the space of going full offensive. Now, behind us, there's another person getting in the way, and then you've got Red Sweatsuit creating some diversions here. So there's a lot of people involved in this all at once. Blocks. Now we're going at SWATs. Now, he doesn't quite get the rock bottom. She starts pushing her way through, and we don't even see the emergence of her face. So she is completely protected. Now, behind Kevin Owens is Tiffany Haddish, who's had a bad day. Now he's going for essentially a standing head and arm choke or mother's milk at this point. And this is incredibly debilitating. Look at the form here. He's literally creating this. There's no S grip. There's no gable grip. There's none of this. It's literally just holding it on like he's a Power Ranger summoning his Zord. As we advance this a little bit further, the hair pull is tight. Tiffany Haddish has had enough, but I want to point out something for her. She still has her drink in hand. How many fights have you gotten into where you go, I just filled this thing up. I will not put this down, sir. And she's letting them know, I got my free refill. Thank you. And of course, no fight is complete without boots with the fur here, people. If you're going to get into a fight, you better look classy as fuck, because otherwise, what are you doing with our time? Having said that, pull down your shirt, because this is not a great angle. And I got to say, you want to make sure you keep it classy here when you're fighting. And as we close this on out, the last shot here is just telling us a story of everything we've seen and the regret. Really, look at these things that are on the floor, the receipts. I hope you guys learned a lot from that fight, Tim, because that was a doozy, sir. So thank you for bringing that to our attention. Tim, we're going to go ahead and close this on out for the day. Where can the people find you, sir?
The people can find me at Inside BJJ on your favorite social media. If you are out in Nashville, come see me at 10th Planet Nashville. And if you are out in California, come see my boys at 10th Planet Stockton. RAF, great to be with you today. I offer my sincerest apologies to you, to the Bullpen, to the WWE universe, but mostly to Keith Owens. I don't know who you are, Keith Owens, because you may not exist. But there is a man named Kevin Owens that I thought was Keith. And so I'm sorry to both of you, Keith and Kevin. It's like Keith and Kenny Florian. No, it's not. Listen, you pissed off the DC Extended Universe, the Marvel Universe, and the WWE Universe, all in one foul swoop. Literally in 1 minute's worth of time. Scared. You hit all three of them. Scared, homie.
What do you mean, don't be scared? Those are the people you want to be scared of. Have you not seen their work on Rotten Tomatoes? We want those people to give us star ratings, which, by the way, you can find Inside BJJ on all major platforms and the Grappling Hour. But if you have a negative review, remember, Tim hosts Inside BJJ. I host the Grappling Hour. So good ratings here, bad ratings there.
If you leave me a negative review, I will read it on the air.
That is fair. Before we sign off, I want to make sure Tim was here just so that we could express our deepest condolences to one Sam Barbosa and his team, his friends, his family. We just recently got the news. I had the ability to interview Sam Barbosa. He was a very bright light, an incredibly nice guy. And what ends up happening when I do interviews with people is I get maybe 1 hour to talk with them, and maybe I don't get to see them, or we run into each other briefly. I revisited my interview that I did with him, and it was so wonderful to see him smile so much and be such a great, great positive influence, and see people saying that and espousing that in their testimonials about him. It's obviously very tragic. We don't know all the full news just yet, but reading the statement from his mother and his sister and from Brian over at 10th Planet over in Jacksonville, it's incredibly terrible news. So we send our deepest regards and condolences to that team and that group of people.
Yeah, agreed, Raf.
All right, guys. Tim, you can get out of here. I'll go ahead and take care of the end of this. But my thanks to you. What a great episode. And as a reminder, You guys can catch us here weekly, the Bullpen on Fridays. However, coming up with the beginning of the draft season, that means we are slowly getting into PGF season. So we will do 2 episodes as we get closer to that season for season 9, starting off March 4th. So you're going to want to stay tuned with us. We'll have lots and lots of programming. But Tim, we'll see you a little bit later, buddy.
Take it easy, man.
All right, you guys, that's about it for us here at the show. Reminders, like, comment, subscribe wherever you're watching this. If you've been watching it and you didn't send us a like, what's wrong with you? Why do you hate fun? Listen, Tim gets a lot of stuff wrong. Your boy here has to clean up. And I think I deserve a like just for cleaning up the mess. So do that as you may. A comment would be appreciated as well. We love that. We have had so many great interviews, and we got to know a lot of the staff and the people that are going to be on the next season of the PGF. Please check those out. If you haven't seen the draft, go to Brandon McCatherine's channel, go to PGF World, catch up on these personalities because, guys, I kid you not, this season already looks insane. And the fact that one of the actual owners is somebody who is won, in disgrace, by the way, questionable, asterisk, a bullpen championship for our fantasy draft. Granted, I've won twice and no one else has done that. And it looks like nobody else ever will because Egg's out of the question now. So, yikes. It says, draft the Triangle King. Isn't the Triangle King... Aren't you injured right now? Isn't this the time when we should be rolling so that I can just attack what you've been injured with? And I won't do you a disservice and say how you've been injured, though I could. I just want to make sure that you know, sir, yes, we wish you a speedy recovery, but you owe me rounds as soon as you are healed up. So just remember, and it says you need him on the show. Debatable. Been doing this a while. You're still a rookie in this regard, sir. It's like you telling me we need to put a white belt on Subversive. I'd be like, I mean, need to? No. Would we? Maybe. Depends on what they do. But me here, you know what I mean? Like you're somewhere here. You made the effort to get involved, so you're here. But like me, you know, just keep that in mind. I can up your level. That's what I can tell you, though. Can't come to one of the OGs of this interview broadcast space and tell him, like, you need him on the show. No, I don't. I'm good. But I'll always welcome you as an interviewee. So, all right, folks. That is going to do it for us here at the Bullpen. My thanks to you guys. We will see you back here next Friday. Until then, thank you so much for watching. It's been a great day for grappling. We'll see you back on the mats.